Carry on.
I'm on a roll.
You're on a roll. So now we're in. So you're in 18 or 19. You're going out with this Louis guy.
Yeah, and
In
so we sort of
Vancouver.
got together. And I went with him in the latter part of grade 12, I think, and then I was working at BC Catholic, and he was going to Vancouver Vocational School. And he was he could fix typewriters and telexes, and didn't have printers, Gestetners, all that sort of thing. So that's what he was doing, and so he and his brother that still lives in Port Moody went up to Kitimat and Camana when it was opening.
Right.
Big bucks.
Big bucks.
Neither one of them drank nor smoked.
So they made lots of
And
money.
they made lots of money. And he said a lot of the guys coming back on the train gambled it away, but they didn't. They bought property.
Yeah.
So he was going to build us a log cabin on this house where St. Joseph's Church is.
Where's that?
In Port Moody.
Port Moody. Okay.
Anyway, and so the night before he was leaving, he asked me to marry him, and
Oh,
I had an
geez.
engagement
Wow.
ring. Should have kept it in then. And apparently, my dad was very, very upset because he thought I was too young and first boyfriend and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Anyway, so
Good idea.
they went up to Kidmat first and then Camano and worked up there. And so when I was at the BC Catholic, I was on holidays, on 2 weeks holidays, and Mum phoned from Moose Jaw.
How did Mom get back to Moose Jaw?
Mum went back to Moose Jaw because Betty had cancer.
Oh.
And she went to look after the 4 boys. Freddie was born 11 years after Billy. And at that time, I think they discovered she had cancer of the cervix. She died when Freddie was 7.
Wow, okay.
So she died.
So Mom went,
Yeah.
your Nana.
So Mum was there.
Yeah.
And so she said, now, and Father Campbell and Father Scullion and Father Coyne, all the priests, loved hanging out at the forts because it was just fun.
They were
And they loved
troublemakers.
Fred. And Fred Ford had the service station. And they were,
Right.
he was very good to them. And he also had the franchise to sell Atlas tires. So
Right.
everybody knew Fred. Anyway, so Mum said, they're looking for a secretary. The Redemptists, the name of the order that they belong to, is building a seminary in Windsor, Ontario. And they need a secretary that will look after this campaign from Winnipeg to Victoria for every parish that had a Redemptist order. So I quit the job at BC Catholic, and I left on a Friday night, arrived on a Sunday morning, and I lived.
You drove or you took a train?
Oh no, took the train. I got the pass. Dad worked for the railroad, so I got his
Oh, right.
CPA pass.
But wait a second, what happened? What about
Until I was
Louis?
16. Well, anyway, I went to Moose Jaw. I thought, well, he's up in Camano.
Well,
I'll be in
Oh.
Moose Jaw for a couple of years, whatever this campaign
right.
was worth, and then we'll get married and whatever. And so then I met Ed Murphy, and
Okay.
that was the end of Louis.
Louis is out. Eddie's in.
Gonzo.
Eddie's in. Now who's Eddie?
Ed Murphy was older than Lucille. Lucille's a couple of years, Lucille, my best friend, Lucille Gagne, is a couple of years older than I, and he was older than her. And when Lucille and Cerise came back from University of Saskatoon, there were 6 of us that hung out together. And so I don't know whether I just happened to be around, and Ed started asking me out.
Oh, Eddie.
Yeah, Eddie. Nice, big, tall Irishman, and it turned out that his father, Art Murphy, had sponsored my dad to be a knight.
Oh, to be a knight of Columbus
Knights
or
of
something?
Columbus. So anyway, it was a wonderful romance.
But?
Oh my God. And so I sent the ring back.
To Louis.
I sent the ring back to Louis. And I think, Eddie didn't marry until he was 50-something, 51 or 2.
Oh, so he didn't, there's nothing serious. He wasn't asking you to marry him.
No, never
What's
got a
wrong
ring
with
from
him,
that.
Eddie?
He didn't know what he was missing.
Right.
Anyway, Where was I? Don't interrupt me.
Yeah, Louis. You sent the ring back to Louis.
I sent the ring back.
Yeah.
And I think the reason that Ed was, I was an easy date for him,
Right.
because I was already engaged. But anyway, I sent the ring back and broke that off, and the next thing I know, Louis comes to Moose Jaw.
Oh, he's
and
serious.
tries to talk me
He tries
back,
to woo
wanted
you
me to
back.
keep the ring, and it's very sad. And
Did he cry?
you
Oh,
know,
you cried.
I've known him since, like, I would be in grade 5, he'd be in grade 7, so I'd known him a long, long time. Knew the family, a big family. One of his sisters was a nun.
Oh, geez.
Anyway, I thought, whoa, wouldn't Mom and Dad be happy to hear that?
But you didn't love him.
I didn't love him enough, I guess. I think it
Yeah.
was convenience.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, so that was that story, and I had a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful time in Moose Jaw.
Moose Jaw.
4 years working.
So you're
And
like
my boss-
22 or 23 now.
I'm not 20 yet.
Gotta be.
When I met Mandy.
What?
When I met Mandy,
You're what?
I was not 21.
Must have been.
No.
Well, you can't leave high school when you're 18 and be there 4 years.
No, I was a year at the BC Catholic.
Yeah, so that's 19 now.
Yeah,
Oh,
20.
oh yeah, 20. You're here, and now you just met Murph.
yeah.
Oh, okay. How did you meet Murph?
Well, he was friends with these other two guys that my girlfriends are going with. So,
Where did Eddie Murphy go?
well,
He went by.
he went by. But after the 6 of us sort of broke up because the girls went back to university.
Right.
That was the end of us.
Yeah, you don't see each other. Okay, so how do you meet?
And I didn't have a ring, so I wasn't safe anymore, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, he married in his 50s, and he married a grandmother.
Oh, we don't care. We don't care what happened. Let's hear about
So-
Merv. How'd you meet Merv now?
Oh yeah, so anyway, I'm on my own, and you know, father.
You're not living with mom and mom?
No, I meant I didn't have
Oh, a boyfriend.
the ring,
Right.
and so no, I'm living with the Fords. God love her. I don't know how she managed with 4 kids and me and Mom. Anyway, I get a phone call one night, and we're talking, and we had a youth group called, it was after St. Gerard Magella, called the Magella Club. And it was for, 20-year-olds. And the two Father Caseys had started it. And I was working at the rectory when I first started. And then we
So you
moved
knew
downtown.
everybody, yeah.
Anyway, I thought, and we were just joking back and forth, and I bet you $1 I know how old you are. And I said, well, no, you don't. No, yeah, I bet you $1. I said, okay, it's a bet. Anyway, I thought it was Mike Michalski, whatever his name was.
Oh, you didn't know?
Oh, I didn't know him.
Oh, so you're just talking to someone on the phone you don't know?
No, because I thought it was this
Mike, right.
from the Magella Club. And he lived, I didn't know a lot of the young
Right,
people.
right,
Most
okay.
of them from Moose Jaw had gone to school together, and I didn't know
Right.
any of them.
So you
And-
bet they were going to be...
So
how
anyway,
old?
would you stop talking about
Okay.
my age?
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
How old?
I
was
was
he?
young and
How-
stupid.
How did he guess? What did he
Anyway,
guess?
so I said, well, I gotta go. I said, I'm meeting Mary Ann for his show. He said, oh, okay, but I know all about you. Yeah, okay, fine. And I thought, yeah, I'll see him. We used to meet on a Sunday night. I'll see
Magellan,
him at
yeah.
the Magellan Club. Anyway, so we lived on 1144 4th Avenue.
Okay.
There was a bus stop here and a bus stop down there. Mary Ann lived closer to that one. I lived closer to this one because it went around. Anyway, so I get off the bus at my stop.
Right.
Mary Ann goes around. And so this black Pontiac pulls up. And he said, you owe me $1. And I still didn't quite know.
You didn't get it. You're going,
I
what's he
did
talking
not
about?
get it.
Man, you don't know. You've never seen this guy before.
I've never seen him.
No?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we were talking. I was standing by his car, right in front of the house. So
Yeah.
I was,
Safe.
I don't think I was ever nervous in Moose Jaw. Vancouver, I'd catch the bus along Arbutus from Broadway to,
Yeah, so no
or
problem.
from Broadway to 13th. Anyway,
You could handle yourself.
I was stupid enough not to worry.
Right.
Anyway, and so we talked and we talked and we talked. So he said, eventually, he said, I paid my brother $5 to find out about you.
Oh.
I said, what do you mean? He said, well, at this stage, I hadn't turned 21. I was either going to be 20 or 21, and he knew how old I was. He gave Bernie $5 to find out who that girl was that lived at the Ford house. He stalked me.
Oh, did he? He's a stalker.
Because the Vancouver, St. Louis College was where the Ford boys went. It was boys' school only, and Bernie went there. It was strange
so that's
that
how
Bernie went to because it was a good boys' school, even if he was Jewish. His sister Isabel went to the convent. The sisters
And
of
where'd Dad
Zion.
go? The public school.
Yeah,
Oh.
he went to public school. And he went to, and then he went to university.
Yeah.
So anyway, he said, yeah, you live with your nephews. You've come from Moose Jaw. And,
From Vancouver.
From Vancouver. And he said, I watch you walk to work. And this was downtown now.
Yeah.
The Army and Navy was on Moose Jaw, and Scott Block was around the corner
Right,
right
so that's
there.
where you worked.
And I would catch the bus in front of the Army and Navy. But anyway, he said, yeah, I know. But he said, you have a very, very pretty purple dress with white dots on it. Yeah, okay. And you cut through Central Park. Yeah. And he went on and on and on. And I thought, well,
You should have been running away as fast as your feet could take you. Get out of here. I got a stalker. Feet don't fail me
and
now.
I said, well, who
Run as fast
are
as
you?
you
And he
can.
said, well, my brother's Bernie Shane. And my name is Mervyn, but they call me Mendy, and he had Mendy on his red jacket because he was a star football player apparently. He had clippings from the newspaper and whatever. He was
You star
very good.
football player.
He was a star football player.
Oh.
Anyway, so he said, and I live on Grafton, just down from your church. So I thought, oh, well, if I run into trouble, I will get in touch with Raymond Ford, and he will go beat up on his brother.
Yeah, that's right.
So he asked me, and later on, he'd phone me again, and we'd chat and got to know each other on the phone. And then he asked me if I would go to a dance with him because he was demoulet, and he was asked to chaperone the B'nai B'rith women equivalent a dance. And I said, you want me to be a chaperone? I'm only
21 years
20
old. Yeah.
or something. And at that time, he'd come back from university, and he was working in the lab at Husky Oil, as was my cousin.
But he didn't finish university, did he?
Huh?
He didn't finish
He
university.
got, no,
He only went 1
he
year or
got
something.
kicked out because he was involved with a bunch of other guys in a panty raid,
Oh.
and he wasn't fast enough to
Oh,
get
you
away.
only got to run faster than the other guy behind you. Oh, so he got kicked out. He got asked not to come
Asked
back.
out. Yeah, he didn't come back, so he started working at the
Oh, well, that's a good job.
lab with Sonny Hartney, my cousin.
That's a good job. no?
And he worked shifts, so he picked me up. We went to this formal dance, and Linda Gray Owen was there, and Ray Ford.
Right.
Not Ray, Joe Ford.
Okay.
Anyway, so that was fine. So we went together for a little while. I didn't know any of his friends, and then the priest from out here, Father O'Reilly, was saying a mission in Moose Jaw. And I went to the mission every night, and Father O'Reilly talked to my boss, Father Campbell, and he said, why is it your secretary and Betty Ford's little sister goes to the mission every night, and then she goes and meets this Jew?
Oh, it's not nice. Oh, everyone knew he was a Jew except you. Well, you must know he was Jewish.
Well, I knew he was Jewish, but I didn't know anybody else that was Jewish. I worked for a Jewish family.
Do you know what was wrong with the Jewish, being Jewish?
No, he just wasn't Catholic.
Oh, so that's what she was saying.
Yeah,
Oh, she was
that's
a bitch.
what he was saying.
Who?
Father O'Reilly said, I don't like to see that he's waiting outside for her after the mission.
Yeah.
And so Father said, it's not, everybody's worried about you. And I said, well, no problem. And I said to Mandy, adios, and broke up. So that was fine. And
Oh, you broke up with Mindy?
yeah,
Oh.
yeah, after a couple of months.
Oh, you didn't.
Yeah.
Wasn't your thing.
It was my thing.
Wasn't your cup of tea.
No. Anyway, and so that was Father's doing, and then I was very involved. I was secretary of the youth group, and I was very involved with them. And you met a lot of really nice people because the normal school, Teachers College, was in Moose Jaw. So every year we get a whole new group of young people
Right.
that were in their 20s,
Yeah.
and so I had boyfriends and dates and all that sort of thing. And then
So you were
Bill
keeping-
Corlett came along.
Oh, Bill Corlett, another boy.
Bill
So
Corlett.
you dated Merv only for a bit, and then you moved on.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
okay. You had things to do.
I was.
You're playing the field, they call it, Mom.
Well, no, I was told that everybody was worried about me. And then, years later, I hear that even some of Betty's bridge friends used to say, why are you letting your daughter do that? Because everybody knew the Shanes. And Mr. and Mrs. Shane, Mr. Shane was so good to the Catholics.
Yeah.
The first Christmas, well, I guess we went together over Christmas, and he said, do you want to come and make some deliveries with me? And I what?
This is not. What's it? This is not Maxwell
Max Shane.
This is Merv and Shane asking me this.
Yeah.
Mendy.
Mandy asked if...
Why do some deliveries?
Yeah. So Mr. Shane bought turkeys for St. Louis College, the convent, the Catholic convent, the old folks' home, and
Oh,
the two
nice.
hospitals.
Oh, he's a nice guy.
Very nice. And I find out later from the crazy cousins that used to come here, that they lived at the convent because they had to go to school and they were all from farms. And when they would come in their, didn't have the proper underwear, the clothing for the city, they would go to the Army and Navy, and Mr. Shane would outfit them with the Lyle stockings and the warm
Oh, wow.
underwear, and
Nice.
anytime anything was needed, Mr. Shane would
He was a
always
generous
go
guy.
to- He was very
Where
generous.
did the name Shane come from? Any idea? And why it's not Sheehan or Shine or
I don't know.
no?
I think the way that Mindy had told me one time years ago is that when they came over, and his Mr. Shane,
This guy
Mr.
here.
Shane was born in Minsk, Russia.
Minsk, Russia, yes.
And
Or Pinsk.
Pinsk.
Pinsk. Belarus, actually. I know it's
Belarus,
Russia,
yeah.
but it's now Belarus, yeah.
Okay. Well, when they came over, they probably had eight or nine more initials after their name. They just said, Shane.
Yeah.
And that was it. And his mom, Lena Lazarus,
Lazarus, yeah, she's from
she lived in,
Cardiff-
she came
Cardiff,
from Cardiff,
Wales.
Wales. They came to Regina and met, and she started
Oh.
working at the Army and Navy when she was 13,
Oh, wow.
and that's how those two met.
Oh, wow.
13.
Yeah, isn't that nice?
Anyway,
Oh, wait,
so
so he
that
was a nice man. So now got this
Yeah.
Bill Corlett you're dating.
Yeah, so Bill Corlett had him and a couple of other fellows were in the seminary, the Redemptive Seminary in Brockton, Ontario, and he and Gerard Fagan came home. Wasn't for them, and I started going around with him. He was a tall blonde, good-looking Irishman,
Oh.
great voice, and a great dancer.
Oh, you loved it.
And I loved it.
You
So
had a
we
great
hung
time.
out, and he had a job. He was working at Sears doing, I can't forget what it was, but he ended up being a vice president at Lipton in Ontario, and married a girl that was a grade below me at St. Pat's in
Vancouver.
In Vancouver.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, and the Visses and ourselves went to the Assumption Church every once in a while. We liked the Father Hardings that were there, and we ran into them. So he and his wife invited us to their house, which Mandy just
Hated it.
hated. But Bill's brother Fred was in town, so it sort of broke the ice. And then Bill Corlett's wife and I talked about
The old days, yeah.
about St. Pat.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah,
Okay, so let's move on. So now now you've met a couple guys, you're dating a couple guys.
He married, has 3 daughters,
No, we don't care.
and has since died. He
Oh.
died very young in Toronto.
Oh.
The Mrs. told us.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
So you're a couple
he
years now
asked
you're
me.
dating. Oh, yes,
He
you
asked
were.
me to marry him.
Oh, Bill did too.
Oh.
Everyone's asking you to
What's
marry him.
not to love, honey?
And so you said no to him, I guess.
No, I
Oh, you
thought
said yes to him. You took his ring too.
he was a good friend, and I knew his family, and everybody knew him because he'd come out of the seminary, and what's not to love about somebody
Yeah.
that's been in the seminary?
All the
Anyway,
boxes are checked.
I wasn't sure. I
Oh.
wasn't sure. He absolutely insisted that I take the ring. So I took the ring and I brought it into the house. Betty was like my girlfriend.
Right.
Mom was older than Betty.
She was your
just-
oldest sister. She's your oldest sister.
Yeah, and
Betty.
I was living with her,
Yeah,
and I think I was the daughter she never had.
Right.
Anyway, I talked to her about it. And I said, I don't feel comfortable wearing it.
Oh.
And I had some misgiving.
Yeah.
But anyway, in the meantime, he joined the RCMP in Regina, because that's where they trained.
Sure.
And so I had a chance to
Yeah.
distance myself. But anyway, the long and short of it was that I was a bridesmaid at my girlfriend Glenda's wedding. And she was marrying a captain in the Air Force because of the Moose Jaw having the barracks there. And I was the best, her bridesmaid, and he had a couple of the airmen were in the wedding party, and of course Bill and I were invited to the wedding. And I guess I spent too much time dancing with the groomsman who was going back to Cold Lake. I mean, it wasn't anything serious or anything, but he got so angry
Bill.
and so jealous. I thought, oh no,
This time I don't need
oh
that.
no, don't need that.
All right. So
Don't need
he's
that.
out.
So that was the end of that. Gave that ring back
Oh,
too.
jeez. Okay. How do we meet now? Okay. How
And
does Merv
so
come back?
but in the meantime, Mandy's still stalking me.
Oh, Mandy. Jeez, would you leave
Mandy,
me alone?
like I would come out of the Fords and go to the corner to get on the bus, and in the meantime he's driving around, and this cousin, this Bridget's son, was a policeman, and we lived on 4th, he lived on 5th. He said, who is that bugger in the black Cadillac? I'm going to charge him, Pontiac.
Pontiac.
That's driving down my street, my taxes are going to go up and blah, blah, blah. And he'd pick him up too, because he'd be catching the bus at that side. Anyway, so one time, Bill didn't have a car. Mandy didn't have a car, it was Mr. Shane's. First time I went in his car, would you know what was up on the dash as a picture of St. Christopher? And I said, what is that? He said, oh, my dad's best friends with the nuns up there, and they gave it to him to keep him safe. Anyway, so he would pick us up. We went to a movie. He waited till the movie was done. He picked the two of us up and took us to the swing-in drive-in and bought us milkshakes. He was crazy that man.
What's wrong with him?
Yeah. Anyway, when I broke up, Lucille and I walked from the church, which was just down the street from him home, and he picked us up. It was cold as you know what, and snowing, and he picked us up, dropped off Lucille 2 doors down from the Fords, and then dropped me off. And he said, there's a really good movie coming to town, and it was War and Peace, and I'd like to take you. And I said, oh, well, he said, it's just a movie, no ring or anything
Don't worry.
attached. Don't worry. So we did that, and then we went on a couple of outings. We had the Fagans. This Fagan was a big family. They're cousins of Mary Ingalls, Mary Viss, and they had a cottage at Buffalo Lake, and we'd gone there. And the Magellan Club used to have an Irish concert every year, because Father Casey was in charge. And I had taught 3 of the girls to do the Irish jig.
Right.
And we always sang and did all this sort of thing. And we were a traveling roadshow.
Yeah, you're talented.
Well, I mean, we went to the hospital, we went to the old folks' home, but
Right.
we would go to Ernfold and these little
Well,
places.
okay, get back to your story.
And so Mandy would pick me up after it.
Oh, perfect.
Like we'd be home at midnight or something.
He's still waiting.
Yeah. And he used to walk by the house singing, whistling, Don't Sit Under the Apple Tree. It used to drive Lucille crazy. Anyway, he shocked me again, and we started going out together. And then Mum had gone home
Back
at
to
this
Vancouver.
stage, back to Vancouver.
But Betty's okay, even with the cancer and
And
everything?
Betty was okay after, it took 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And she had to go to Regina for treatment and all that. But anyway, he he came to get me one day, and Mum was outside. They had a glassed-in porch, and she was there. And Mandy tells it that he was asked if he could take my mum for a ride. Could I have a ride in your car?
Your mom said that?
So like Nana.
Yeah.
Loved the car. Anyway, because we never had one.
Yeah.
Dad never drove. Never drove all those years. That's why Bill got me the license and the use of the car. Anyway, so I guess she wanted to know what his intentions were and whatever. He had a really good job.
Husky.
They worked shift at the lab, and I don't. You know, we went to, when we were on that cruise with the Dairy Queen. We were on the, you know, when you newlyweds.
Yeah, newlywed game.
And
yeah.
one of the questions was, how did he propose? And I said, he didn't. And he said, no, her mom had the shotgun out. I said, no, it wasn't a shotgun.
wedding. Yeah.
We didn't have to get married at all. I
But
was so mad at him.
So he took Nana out.
So Nana had the little heart-to-heart with him, and then we had decided to get married, and I said, I don't believe in mixed marriages. I don't think it would work.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't either. But he said, I know you would never, your religion is way too important to you. You would never consider changing it. And I said, no. He said, but you know, I would think about it. But I couldn't do it in Moose Jaw, as I said. The church was on this corner, and they lived right there. And he said, you know, I'm sure the first time I'd walk near the church, the whole town would be talking. And then he said, you know, I'm going to go to Calgary, and I'm going to go back to wasn't university, it was college. That's what his plan was, so that was fine. And then he said, but I really do want to marry. I think we should marry, but I'm going to get a job because I can't afford to not work. So he had 2 very serious interviews, and one of them was with Clark Paper.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you know, I think this is the one. People will always need paper, always need paper.
Mm-hmm.
So he started working. He moved to a rooming house
In Calgary.
in Calgary. Terrible food, but it was a boarding house, and his boss was Dick and Aileen McHugh.
McHugh, yeah, I was going to say.
And quite often they would take pity on him and invite him over for dinner. They quite liked him. And Dick McHugh was very religious. They had 3 adopted children. But he would invite him to dinner, and then he'd go to benediction at night, on Sunday night. And Mandy would go with him once in a while. And he really did talk to him about religion. And at the rooming house, he had a buddy who was Tom Houlihan. And he was an Irish Catholic, like from way back. And he was very influential. So I knew all the priests from Winnipeg to Victoria. And this Father Lawless that used to be in Moose Jaw was in Calgary. And I said, I'll go to Calgary one time and I'll introduce you. And he said, no, I'll do it on my own. I'll read about it, I'll think about it, and then I'll decide. And he walked up to a rectory that was in the area, knocked on the door and said he wasn't Catholic, and met Father Hoshka, who was driving around in a red car that he thought was pretty, loved to argue, and he took instructions. So the year before we were married, he was baptized in Calgary at Easter, and became Catholic.
Oh, that's from 57. Wow, big move. Good thing he did it in Calgary and not in Moose Jaw.
That crucifix that I have up there, that plastic, white plastic you can spit through. Tom Houlihan had been to Italy before he came over, and that was from him. That vase is from Tom Houlihan.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, it was.
But so it's good that he
That
did
was
it in
the
Calgary,
influence that he had.
not
Oh,
do
no,
it in
never would
Moose
have went to
Jaw.
Moose Jaw.
But so what happened? What's the color behind people in Moose Jaw now when they find out he gets baptized at
like
Easter?
one of the gals, when Lucille, who I've known since grade 2, she befriended me when I started school, and she told me years later. We were talking about this. Shirley, and she said, "Oh, she was so upset that you were going out with that Mervyn Shane." I said, "She was? I thought she was my friend." "Oh no, she was just vicious. That you could have had your pick of any of these guys here. Look at all the new people coming in every year, blah, 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 and you picked this first non-Catholic I ever went out with. Non-Catholic, let alone Jewish. Didn't know anybody Jewish." Anyway, it was hard for Mandy, no doubt about it.
Why?
No doubt. Well, first of all, he had to give up his family. Mom and Dad did not, and that's a different story. But they did not come to the wedding. Sent the invitation back.
Saying I'm not coming. Saying I'm not coming.
Well, no, didn't even open it.
Oh, didn't open it. Oh, they were not happy.
Just returned to sender.
Oh.
And his best friend Jock didn't
Show up?
come.
No.
None of his friends came because, in deference to Mr. and Mrs. Shane, I think that was probably it. The only one at our wedding that he knew was the den mother of the de Malay, Mrs. Pikes, and she said to him at the back of the church, "Good luck, Mervyn, you're going to need it."
Right, because it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough road, right? Especially in the 50s.
Yeah,
when they're a little bit ignorant that way.
Very, yeah. And the
brothers
high
and sisters,
school,
brother and sisters. No,
it was a terrible time.
Whatever the father and mom did is what Bernie and Isabel did, probably, right?
Mandy kept letters that I still have them, from his sister and from Bernie, saying, "You're breaking Mom and Dad's heart." I was interviewed by the Shanes.
Yes.
I got the bus in front of the Army and Navy, and they called, "Miss Keegan, can we see you?"
Yeah, and who was it? Just the Mr. Shane, or was Mr. and Mrs.?
The two of them.
And they ran the Army and Navy, right?
Yeah, he was the manager of the Army and Navy in Moose Jaw and Regina, and he did all the buying.
Right.
So if there was a little store in Winnipeg that was going out of business, and he would take Mandy, they would go and buy up the stock, and he'd have bacon and eggs. But kept kosher at home. Mrs. Shane kept kosher all the time. Sure. When she'd go out for dinner, she'd have a tin of tuna. Unless it was kosher restaurant or whatever. So he was never. He had his prayer shawl that you saw, and he had to go to. He said that he lived where the church was. You could cut through the schoolyard of the church to get to the where the rabbi was to go to rabbi school after school. He said, "I used to cut through there, and the Catholics used to beat up on me." And he said, "I'd come back to the Protestant school, and they'd beat up on me." Nobody liked him.
No.
You killed Jesus.
That's right. That's what they say, right?
That's what they say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was very hard. The other thing, he gave up his family, and a lot of his friends thought, "What do you mean with that Catholic?" Catholic. That's a dirty word. And also the de Malay.